Most people have some kind of anchor that ties them to the place they call home, a memory, a tradition, a smell that lingers in the air. For me, that anchor was a giant, a living monument, a 200-year-old white oak whose branches arched over my backyard like ancient arms stretching to guard the land my grandfather bought back in 1980. I'm Alex, and that oak wasn't just a tree. It was part of my family's identity. It existed long before the house, long before the paved streets, and certainly long before the HOA came along to turn the neighborhood into a plastic suburb. Then Linda moved in. Linda didn't slip quietly into the neighborhood the way normal people do. She arrived like a hurricane wrapped in a designer blazer. Within weeks, she made sure every resident knew her name, her position, and her personal crusade. Perfect order. To Linda, the world shouldn't just be neat, it should be sterile. She was the new HOA president, and she acted like she ran the city, not just a cluster of houses. The day she installed her gleaming swimming pool was the day the war began. She placed it right up against the shared fence line as if daring nature to challenge her authority. And nature, with its usual timing, dropped a few leaves from my oak into her water during the first autumn breeze. You would have thought I'd dropped a flaming mattress into her backyard. One evening, she began pounding on my front door so violently the frame rattled. When I opened it, she shoved 3 wet leaves into my chest like she was serving an eviction notice. "This," she barked, "is your problem. I found 3 leaves in my skimmer today. I want that hideous old tree cut down immediately." I blinked, wondering if this was a joke. "Linda," I said, with a calmness I definitely didn't feel, "that tree is older than both our houses combined. It's registered with the county as a protected heritage tree. I can't cut it down, even if I wanted to." Her lip curled. "Don't quote laws to me. I am the HOA president. I make the rules." "Not on my property, you don't." "If you won't handle it," she snapped, "I'll hire professionals to rip it out myself." "Linda," I said firmly, "if you step foot into my yard or send anyone into it, I will immediately call the police. Do not touch my tree." She stormed off, muttering threats loud enough for half the neighborhood to hear. I figured she'd cool down. Even she couldn't be reckless enough to commit an actual crime over 3 leaves. I was wrong. 3 days later, while I was in a dull meeting at work, my phone buzzed with a motion alert from my backyard security camera. I dismissed it with a swipe, probably just a squirrel. When I got home that afternoon, I noticed something unsettling. The skyline looked wrong. Empty in a place it had never been empty before. A cold dread crawled up my spine as I walked to the backyard. Then I saw it. My grandfather's oak, our family's quiet guardian, was no longer standing. The massive trunk lay on its side like a fallen titan, hacked apart without dignity. Sawdust coated the grass like an unnatural snowfall. Branches were strewn everywhere. The stump, raw and splintered, sat like a gaping wound in the earth, and standing proudly on that stump, phone pressed to her ear, laughing as if she'd just solved global warming, was Linda. "Yes! Finally!" she said loudly into her phone. "Got rid of that eyesore. Now my pool will stay clean." Then she saw me. She smiled, wide, smug, and poisonous. "See, Alex? I told you I'd handle it. You can thank me later for the cleanup, and don't worry, I'll send you the invoice." For a moment, I actually saw red. I wanted to scream, to shove her off my property, to make her feel even a sliver of the pain I felt, but anger would only hand her a weapon. So instead, I forced myself to breathe, slowly, deeply. Without a single word, I took out my phone, recorded her gloating on my property, recorded the destruction, then walked back into my house. "What's wrong?" she taunted from behind me. "Cat got your tongue? Next time, listen to your president." She didn't know that silence is the most devastating strategy in a war she had just lost without realizing it. I didn't call the police, not yet. I called two people, a certified arborist and the nastiest property lawyer in the entire state. For the next 48 hours, Linda strutted around the neighborhood like a victorious general. She told anyone who'd listen that she had finally fixed the problem and that Alex owed her gratitude and possibly a fruit basket. She had no idea that a storm was building with her name etched into every lightning bolt. The arborist arrived first. He inspected the stump, measured its diameter, counted growth rings, documented the species, and took photographs from every angle. His expression was grim, almost reverent. When his report came in, my lawyer invited me into his office. His smile was the kind that made people nervous. "Alex," he said, tapping the report, "what she destroyed wasn't just a tree. It was an incredibly valuable, healthy, 2-century-old white oak. The base cost to replace something like this, if that were even possible, is around $80,000. I nodded, jaw clenched. "I'm not finished," he added, amused. "Because she cut it down knowingly and maliciously, we can pursue treble damages under timber trespass." "Treble?" I repeated. "Triple," he confirmed. "That brings us to $240,000. But we're not stopping there." He pulled out a calculator and continued. "The tree sat on a slope, meaning its roots were stabilizing your yard. With it gone, you'll need a retaining wall. That's another $50,000. Add emotional distress, cleanup costs, lawyer fees, punitive damages for trespassing, and HOA misconduct." He slid a sheet of paper across the desk. "Total, just over $1 million. I closed the folder and said, "Let's tell her." Sunday arrived, the monthly HOA meeting. Linda, wearing a blazer that practically screamed authority, was on stage preaching about neighborhood aesthetics to a bored crowd. I entered the hall. The heavy doors slammed shut behind me, echoing like a judge's gavel. Every head turned. Linda's smirk froze on her lips when she saw the legal binder in my hand. "Oh, look," she said, leaning into the microphone. "Alex is here. Did you finally come to pay me for the tree removal?" "No," I said, walking down the center aisle. "I'm here to pay you back." I stepped onto the stage and placed the binder on the podium with a satisfying thud. "You have been served." She laughed, at first. But as her eyes skimmed the first page, the color drained from her face. Her hands shook. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. "A million?" she whispered. "Are you insane? It was just a piece of wood." "It was a protected heritage tree," I said, my voice amplified through the microphone so every resident heard. "And you trespassed to cut it. That's a felony. Also, since you can't pay the damages, a lien has been placed on your home, your vehicle, and your pool." The room fell silent. Linda spun to the board members in a panic. "Help me! The HOA will cover this, right? Right? I did it for the neighborhood." The treasurer stood immediately. "Absolutely not. You acted alone. The HOA will not be liable for your crimes." Linda's legs buckled. She dropped into her seat, sobbing into her hands as reality crushed her. The lawsuit that followed was swift and brutal. The evidence was airtight. Her arrogance had been recorded from every angle. She had no defense, no escape. Linda declared bankruptcy. She sold her house, ironically the same house she tried so hard to perfect, just to pay the judgment. The new owners who bought it? Amazing people, They love trees. With the settlement money, I planted 10 new saplings along my property line, creating the beginning of a brand new legacy. As for Linda, last I heard she's living in a cramped apartment across town. No yard, no pool, no trees, no audience for her self-appointed authority. Karma rarely rushes, but when it arrives with precision. She thought she was above the law. She learned $1 million lesson.